Sri Sachidananda Sadguru Sainath Maharaj Ki Jai. Ramana Maharshi, his life. Chapter 17, Sri Ramana's promise of his continued presence. They say I am dying, but I am not going away. Where could I go? I am here. Before his death, Sri Ramana repeated these words again and again. Of course, his promise was meant in a wider sense and was not limited to his presence at the ashram. But as the Maharshi spent 54 years of his life in Tiruvannamalai and 28 of them at Ramana Ashram, his presence is felt there with special intensity. At first, it did not seem that ashram could continue as a spiritual center. After the death of Maharshi, people returned home or went on pilgrimage. Most of the devotees who had lived with Sri Ramana for a long time packed their belongings and left. Balaram Reddy, for example, had already taken the decision to leave during the night of the death. When we came to know that Bhagavan had expired, Vishwanatha Swami, Subbarao and I left the crowded, despairing scene at the ashram and walked down the road west of the ashram. We sat on the bridge opposite to Draupadi temple near the Dharmaraja tank. Sitting there in a deeply reflective mood, we talked about Bhagavan and what we would all do now that he was gone. With Bhagavan's physical absence, a new phase in our lives would begin. None of us thought we would stay in the ashram or even return to it once we left. Now it was all over, so we thought. Taken from Reddy Reminiscences, page 117 FF. And so on. And so, on the day after the funeral, he packed his belongings and left. Most of the devotees did the same. Soon the ashram was deserted. It is reported that thieves had been able to break into in the broad daylight. Financially, Ramanashram was barely able to keep its head above the water. But gradually things changed. Devotees started to return. The understanding of what Sri Ramana had meant in his last promise ripened in them. The overwhelming grief was gradually replaced by an overwhelming joy and the certitude of the continuing presence of the Master. Many devotees discovered a new kind of inner relationship to their Sadguru, feeling his presence more directly than ever. The orderly daily routine, which was so characteristic of the ashram, was kept after Sri Ramana's death. A management committee was formed, with Chinnaswamy being chosen as its president. Shortly before his death in 1953, his son T.N. Venkatraman Venkatu succeeded him, and since 1994, the latter's eldest son V.S. Ramanan had been the ashram president. At first, a simple stone with a lingam was erected over Sri Ramana's burial spot under a palm tree roof. Later, an imposing samadhi was built, which was opened in 1967. Mornings and evenings, the Vedas Parayana are chanted as was the custom during Ramana's lifetime. After the Parayana, a puja is celebrated at his burial spot. The favorite place for silent meditation from the very beginning was the old hall. In the small Nirvana room, all the objects of Sri Ramana's daily use had been laid out: his walking stick, the water jug, the peacock fan, the rotating bookshelf, his bed, and much more. Today, Sri Ramana is a vibrant spiritual center. Today, Sri Ramanashram is a vibrant spiritual center. More than 50 years after the death of Maharshi, it has lost nothing of its attraction, quite the opposite, in fact. Even more people, particularly in the West, have found in the person and teaching of Sri Ramana Maharshi their spiritual home and have chosen to make the pilgrimage to the place where he lived and taught for so long, so that their contact with him may gain in intensity. It is nevertheless very important to point out that the true experience of the presence of Ramana and Arunachala must be in the heart. It is not bound by time or place, and everything else has only the limited value of a manifestation. Where could I go? I am here means that he is the heart of all living beings, the self, as it states in chapter 10, verse 20 of the Bhagavad Gita, his favorite verse. I am the self, O Gudakesa, dwelling in the heart of every being. I am the beginning, the middle, and also the end of all living beings. Jai Ramana, Jai Sai Mata.